Hey guys, Bobby again. And last night, who would have thought on a Monday before reset, we got PvP changes. And these might allow us Shadow Priests to actually play in this meta, which allows us to have more compositions, not die without getting our pressure out. I feel like these could go in the right direction. Is it all the way there? I don't think so, but this is a huge opportunity for us to be saved. I feel like we can actually do shit now. But here we go. Let's just go right into it real quick. I'm sure you've seen some of these, but some of the outliers that have been stopping us from doing anything were DKs and Demon Hunters. So DKs got their main damage, which is Death Coil. If you look at their breakdown, it's Death Coil, their boils or what they're called. You know what I'm talking about. Their festering wounds or whatever they are, and then their clawing shadows. Range, range, range. Right? They put up their little wounds. They clawing shadows from range. They burst them. They death coil from range. So you can't kite them. You can't get away from them. And they did insane damage. Death coil was the top of that. Now that got nerfed by 20%. 20% nerf is a significant amount of a main damaging ability. So we should be able to live a lot longer while we're trying to get our pressure out, which when Shadow Priest gets their pressure rolling is when things really amount to getting a secured kill. Demon Hunters got huge damage, nerf on a lot of different abilities. Inertia was their modifier. Listening Decree, big giant circle on the ground that blew up and hit you. 20% nerf to that. So you got a 6% nerf here. You got a 20% nerf here. The Hunt was nerfed by 10% and its dot by 10%. So you're not gonna get 10% less on the initial hit. So they would tie a lot of these together, right? They would pop their, for instance, Essence Break. They'd have their Inertia. They'd pop the Listening Decree in the ground and hunt you all at once, and you would just die. Like you would just be game over. Or they'd do it back to back to back, and you just couldn't recover. Your healer couldn't recover you, especially if they're in CC for 2 seconds. So that being nerfed by 10% should help a lot. The Throw Glaive only reduced by 10%, which I guess when they're spilling Throw Glaives every second, it's something, but the bleed I think would have been more important. Essence Break is another modifier on hit, was reduced by 15%. This is kind of what I was talking about, was this 15% plus this 6% over here is, in my opinion, a big combination of reducing all their damage. So, and then Fell Barrage was hitting. I had Fell Barrages hit for 400k, 500k in one press of AOE. Right? It's just they use it and they shoot all the stuff all over, all the balls everywhere with through their eyes, and that got nerfed by 20%. So that's a big one too. A lot of their AOE pressure, it got kind of touched there. I'm kind of surprised to not see their blade dance get touched at all, but hey, it is what it is. A lot of these are modifiers on top of each other, and then the big hits are nerfed. So I don't think that's it. PvE wise, Demon Hunters are doing a lot more damage, and these aren't even the damage modifiers for PvE. So I'm hoping to see PvE nerfs for them too, because this still doesn't feel nowhere near enough. So yeah, so the DK nerf I think is good. DH nerfs are good, but not enough. But hey, this is the big one right here. Resto Druids were keeping Shadow Priests out of pressure, right? Resto Druids were the underlying, and Mistweavers, underlying reasons for not being able to keep pressure up, especially paired with DKDH, right? You have the Mega House running you down, killing you in 2 seconds, you're dying, and then you have these Druids who are like, oh, you have dots up? Ha, funny, I can do nothing and heal through it. So, another big thing for Shadow Priest, right? Life Bloom got nerfed by 12%, Grove Guardian got nerfed by 15%, and now they can die. So you put a Shadow Crash out there, kind of do a little bit of AoE with your teammates, you could actually kill the Grove Guardians. So, will you go after them? I don't know. It depends on how much health they have. If you can just kill them really quickly, like a Healing Tide, maybe. Since it's so much healing, but I don't know, right? So we'll see. But this is a huge, right? So the top 3 are already nerfed that were keeping us behind, right? Hunters, right? Hunters right here. Hunters got nerfed. Rapid Fire by 20%. That's really big. Guardian of the Dream 4 set got nerfed by 20%. So no more one rapid fire aim shot combo wombo one-shotting us with the tier set. To be fair, they don't have the 4 set yet, but they're still doing a lot of damage. So you pair their rapid fire big damage now with 40% more of it. or what's going to be 60%, they already knew, right? So that's a plus. Arcane Shot and the Chimera Shot got buffed, but that's just their in between, right? Every time they aim shot, they get the two free Arcane Shots with increased damage. So, you know, it was just a filler, and it costs a little bit of their energy, focus. Sorry. So not a big deal. I'm glad to see Burst toned down, right? I like a little bit of pad. I like a little bit of consistent pressure, but burst damage is way too high right now, and Shadow Priests are directly affected by that burst, the burst classes right now. So, Paladin got a mana regen buff, so maybe we'll see Holy Pallies in the meta. Holy Pallies, when they're not too strong, Shadow Priest is pretty good against, even though they have their double dispel. It's not as bad because they are very susceptible to CC, and Shadow Priest is all about CC. So essentially, you just wait for your CC to do big goes, and you can control Holy Pally that way. You don't want to just send it and then they dispel everything easily, right? So this is a big one right here. All of our damage, every single spell was buffed by 8%. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, and I thought that too when I read it last night. I was like, 8%, that's all we get? But it's not just 8% when I was thinking about it. It's 8% Shadow Word Death. It's 8% Mind Blast. It's 8% Vampiric Touch, Shadow Word Pain, Devouring Plague, On Hit Devouring Plague, Void Torrent, Insidious Ire Void Torrent, right? It's 8% damage, then a 40% increase of that increased 8% damage, right? So Void Torrent's going to hit pretty chunky now, especially with all the modifiers. You see what I'm saying? Auspicious Spirits, I can go on, but essentially, it's 8% of everything, right? If you saw all of our spells laid out on Shadow and it said 8% increase, I'd be pretty happy about that. Do I think our damage is going to be enough? No, I don't. But I do think with the other classes getting nerfed and us getting buffed, it brings us more in line to like mid-pack. Like right now, we are the worst DPS in the game. Everyone knows that. Shadow Priest has no one up there. We are the worst class in the game. But I do believe this 8% buff to every spell and the nerfs to the classes that are crushing us could at least bring us to like B tier. Like right now we're like don't play tier right now, right? But I believe we'll go to B tier with this, and hopefully some more changes to some of the other classes will at least allow us to bring those S tiers to A tiers, and we can fight them. Maybe Shadow will get something else because they are actually the worst in PvE also. So we haven't even seen the PvE changes for classes, right? We got PvP changes specifically, but the Race to World First is still going on. When that's done, DHs are probably gonna get nerfed more. I see Shadow Priest getting buffed because they're the worst in PvE as well. So these changes don't affect PvE, but PvE Shadow Priest is one of the worst. So I'm expecting to see PvE changes that will then carry into PvP. See, so this might be a saving grace for us because we already got flatline 8%. We did get Mind Trauma reduced to 15 seconds. That really isn't going to affect us. You don't really ever have Mind Trauma fall off yourself. You have Mind Trauma fall off other people, sure. That kind of sucks. But it doesn't really fall off of you. And I don't know if this means both. Like, they have the 15 seconds and we have 15 seconds. But keeping the buff on yourself is more important. So I don't think this is a big issue. We're essentially always having Mind Trauma up if you're running Mind Spike build, right? I don't think people are running Mind Trauma with Mind Flay builds, so I wouldn't see why you would do that instead of running Driven to Madness or something of that nature. So I don't think this is that big of a deal. I also don't know why this was an issue to begin with. But hey, it is what it is, right? Mages are getting nerfs to their slows and their movement speed abilities and their healing for Arcane. So Arcane mages are going to be less tanky. So instead of having to spam Dispel and try to get their temporal shields off, they can heal and be less and affected by MS. So, you know what I mean? You can probably get away with healing Arcane mages without being able to get temporal shield off. Fire Mage got buffed in these areas, but they got nerfed overall. So they got Ignite by 20, Fireball by 18, Scorch by, 55, but Glass Cannon nerfed all of it by 60. So You nerf everything by 60, they get 20, around 40%. But it's 20% of the 40% they're going to lose, so probably less, right? So they're going to be doing less damage overall through Glass Cannon. But if they don't use Glass Cannon, then they'll do more consistent pressure than they were, right? If they were not using Glass Cannon, which I know everyone was, but if they decide not to now, they get a buff. So that's good. If they choose to use a different talent, they're not going to hit as hard, and we have to see what other builds they'll use. Mages, notoriously, the last couple seasons have actually countered Shadow Priest now, when it used to be up until, I want to say, BFA. Shadow Priest countered mages. Like, you saw Shadow Priest in a lobby as a mage, you were like, fuck, this is going to be hard. Then BFA came out, and mages, fire mages, frost mages, MLX, just crushed Shadow Priest comps. Like, Shadow Priest just couldn't carry over because their damage was nothing in BFA. Then you had Shadowlands, and their damage is nothing in Shadowlands. And then Dragonflight Season 1 came out, and it reversed. Shadow Priest countered mages again. Then we got nerfed. Then mages countered Shadow Priest again. So hopefully we'll see some changes where the burstier specs like Arcane and Fire that don't have to cast at all are pulled in. But Frost did get buffed a lot when it comes to their regular rotational damage. All this got buffed. Flurry, 12%. Frozen Orb, 45%. Just don't sit in the Frozen Orb. Get out of it. Frost Bomb, this was surprising to me because Frost Bomb was hitting like 100k. But I guess 100k on 800k HP pools isn't that much, I guess. But 80% means, with modifiers, 200 plus k. You just throw it up, dot. We're going to make sure we have to dispel that, boys. Healers out there. Ice Lance got buffed, which is their entire damage rotation. It's just, you see the details, it's all Ice Lance, so I'm very confused about that one. And Comet Storm. Like, I'm okay with everything for a Frost Mage, but the Ice Lance, I don't get that. It's already their top damage by a bajillion. And they do decent damage, so. Freezing Winds, that's the Frozen Orb talent. So, okay, I guess I see why they buffed Ice Lance here, because now you're getting less of them here. So Freezing Winds was, if I remember my Mage brain, I used to be a Mage main. That's the orb talent that they have, where you throw out the orb and you get a proc of Ice Lance, right? Fingers of Frost. So instead of every 3, it's every 5. So almost double the time. So that's good. So that means they're going to get less of them, but they're going to hit harder. Frozen Orb has a 5. Oh, and then Frozen Orb has a 5% chance to grant Fingers of Frost instead of 10. So against demo locks and stuff like that, where it's ticking off all the pets, they have 0.5% or half the amount of chance to proc one. So I think they are noticing, with Unholy DKs and demo locks, every tick of damage that they're doing on all the pets do give them a chance, so they can just spam fingers. That's a smart move on Blizzard's end, while buffing their damage. So I like that preemptiveness there. Very smart. Mistweaver, Rising Sun Kick was decreased. Mistweaver, yeah. So okay, so Punch Monks. Yeah, it looks like Fistweavers are getting nerfed. Their Blackout Kick, their Tiger Palm, all of it got nerfed, so they're going to do less damage. Ancient Teachings transfer is 275, was 220. So they're going to heal more, so Fistweavers are going to heal probably about the same, actually. Because if they're getting nerfed up here, but buffed on overall healing, it's the damage done is what Ancient Teachings heals off of. So they're going to essentially do roughly, maybe a little bit more healing, probably around the same, but less damage. So that's good. Less damaging Fistweavers, so you're not going to have to take 3 DPS on your asshole. Disc Priest have that right now, alright? Assassination Kingsbane was nerfed by 9%. Kingsbane didn't even get a 10% nerf. Very surprised because how hard it hits on hit. I would say like initial damage 20%, periodic 10%, but 9% overall for both. That's kind of sad. Crack Shot now causes between the eyes dispatch the target for 50% with 75 a normal damage when used from stealth. I believe, if I'll correct me if I'm wrong, Outlaw was running Shadow Dance, so this was doing a lot of damage. I remember looking at their details and being like, what the hell? pistol shot between the eyes, all that was doing so much damage. So maybe that's what that is. I'm not entirely familiar with the Outlaw toolkit. Perforated Veins damage bonus reduced to 40, so that's good. And their artifact ability, Gormal's Bite, old Legion ability, got reduced. So good subtlety nerfs. If this is the ability I'm thinking of, good nerf to Outlaw. Assassination kind of got hit on the wrist, so I got a little boop on the nose. So this didn't really mean much. I read this when I was looking down here right now. I don't get this. So I know people are running a random one-shot build, but people are still running the Earthshock Lava Burst build for Shaman. So if you're a Shaman man out there, can you explain to me if this is good or bad? Because none of this seems like, oh no, like, was it good or was it bad? I don't know. I even played an Ellie Shaman, but none of this, like the Ice Fury thing. I mean, I guess your Ice Fury on hit's gonna do damage because you'd Ice Fury to get your buff to do more lightning bolt damage for especially with the Stormkeeper. Does that mean, is this gonna mean like people are gonna run Stormkeeper? So I don't know, but yeah, guys, I think we have life. I think we might be in a good spot here for PvP. I'm gonna go live here in a little bit, and when the servers come up and test these abilities, test these changes, and hopefully I don't die instantly. So come watch me at twitch.tv/aphobiagaming, and we'll see how this goes. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know in the comments down below. I hope this helps you guys in some way, gives you guys some hope. See you next time.